presumption of marriage is if you have been living as husband and wife with someone, the society perceives you as husband and wife.
Okay.
And everyone around you can attest they were aware you're husband and wife. Then that can be presumption of marriage. Nowadays, even customary marriages, there is a requirement to register them. Once you go do your ratio, you go and register it at the Register of Marriages as a traditional marriage.
Please go and just confirm you're actually married to that man or woman.
And confirm whoever is officiating your marriage is actually.
You need to understand annulment and divorce are different processes. They are both processes to dissolve the marriage.
So hi guys, welcome again to yet another episode of Just Legal, a podcast by MNO Advocates. In this podcast, we try to demystify the law and give you very valuable information that empowers you and lets you know different aspects of the law. And I'm going to be your host, Liz Ndirito. Today, I'm joined by two advocates of the High Court. I'm very excited about our conversation today. So they're going to introduce themselves. So on my right, we have
Samantha Masengeli, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. 5 years post-admission. I am also an arbitrator with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya, and I specialize in children matters.
Karibu sana.
I'm Sylvia Amamuchitechi. I'm an advocate of the High Court. In my 5th year of practice as well, I specialize in litigation and dispute resolution, where I head the department at MNO Advocates. I'm also a mediator from the Mediation Training Institute, certified. And I'm excited about today's conversation. Yeah, I think for today we'll be focusing now on family law in general. So
awesome. I promised our listeners that I'll be bringing them awesome conversations, informative conversations. So karibu sana, Samantha. Samantha is a friend to MNO as well. So today we are talking about marriage. Yeah. And I can only imagine the questions that our audience will have. Yeah. So maybe you could begin by walking us through the different marriages and marriage. So let's get into it.
Maybe it's good we start by defining what marriage is. It's not so obvious, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. So marriage, under the Marriage Act in Kenya, it's a legal union between two consenting adults of sound mind of opposite sex. Just to clarify. That is marriage. Yeah, so basically in that definition, we could tell what it entails for someone to be married. You must be an adult, that is over 18 years. You must consent to that institution you're about to get yourself in. You must be of sound mind while getting into that agreement, and you must be of opposite sex. So that is what marriage is. I guess on that basis, then we'll be talking about the different kinds of marriages in Kenya. I don't know if Samantha, you want us to take us through that on the different marriages, then we can briefly touch on each of them.
But just before we go to that, when you're defining, when we are defining marriage, why is it so important for us to say opposite sex, especially in this era and time? Because someone else, you have to be sensitive to.
It is important just to define opposite sex to understand who can get into this institution. Because at the moment, as much as we are aware of other communities that may be sensitive, that may want to get into marriage, we need to sensitize them to what the Marriage Act in Kenya recognizes as marriage. It's not just two adults who want to get married, but which adults. So that is the law in Kenya. It may be different outside.
Okay.
It is different outside, actually.
I think it's important.
It's important,
right? Yeah. Just before we even get started, so that we know what we are talking about.
Yeah.
So, in Kenya, we have Hindu marriages. We have Muslim, Islam. We have Christian marriage. Then we have the civil marriage. That is what is recognized by the Constitution of Kenya.
You know what
And
I
also
thought?
Yes.
Oh, customary.
Yeah, and also customary.
So can we stay?
The presumption of marriage. It is a form of marriage, but it's not formally recognized. However, there are circumstances where people have argued that presumption of marriage is actually a form of marriage, in the sense that presumption of marriage is if you have been living as husband and wife with someone, the society perceives you as husband and wife,
Okay.
and everyone around you can attest they were aware you're husband and wife, then that can be presumption of marriage. As much as it's not necessarily registered in Kenya, sometimes it can be used in other instances. Maybe when you're fighting matrimonial property with someone, or succession, someone may come and say, oh, but who are you? But we don't know you. Then there's a part where you can say, presumably I'm married. So the interesting thing about presumption of marriage, the person who is perceiving your union as not a marriage is the one who has the what is the word?
The burden of proof.
The burden of proof actually shifts to the person who is opposing. So me, if I come and say, me and him are married, it is upon, if he says we are not married, then it's up to him to prove we are not married.
Okay.
That is how presumption of marriage works.
I actually thought it's the court that is presuming the marriage. So it's
it's you who makes the application that we are married, because presumably we've been living as a married couple. And then now whoever opposes it, if it's the partner in that union or a third party, then it's up to them to prove how you are not married.
So,
however, it's just good to clarify, it is not legally recognized as a form of marriage, but it can be used for argument purposes.
What I wanted to clarify, so it's not legally recognized. We are the Nairobi relationships. We are just presuming.
You are super single.
Towards, in the eyes of the government, you are single.
You are single. You don't have a marriage certificate or a marriage paper. And that's also another important thing to mention, because each of these marriages Samantha has mentioned, all of them get registered. Nowadays, even customary marriages, there is a requirement to register them. Once you go do your ratio, you go and register it at the Register of Marriages as a traditional marriage. And then you'll be issued a certificate of marriage that was celebrated under the customary laws. That way, if you're approaching court for, say, divorce or matrimonial property, you have proof of marriage. Just producing the dowry papers that people sign.
Photos.
And pictures.
Photos are...
Yeah, nowadays it's not enough. At one point it used to be sufficient.
Oh, really?
But nowadays you must show that there's a requirement to register all forms of marriages. Okay. So that's why it's important to register. And now there is no requirement for registration of presumptuous marriages. That is why it is officially not a form of marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. But okay. Let's go on.
Yeah.
Just, I think to add on that, there's something that you mentioned that I feel like you need to really explain.
Yeah.
When you say burden of proof, what do you mean?
For someone, it's a good question.
Okay, yeah. So for that, it means, for instance, if we are presuming, if I come and say I'm married to someone, and the person who is opposing, now the burden of proof shifts to them, it means they have to come and prove these people were not living together. In fact, this one was in the US, this one was in Kenya, or this one was only here over the weekends. Like, it was just a relationship. You understand? That's why I'm saying the degree of proof is a bit higher. But there are people who you can get neighbors to just come and say, this one, we've only seen her here on weekends or 2 times. You understand? It's now up to you to get evidence that you are not married. And then also if maybe you can say, yeah, there's a duration we stayed together, but not for long. It was not husband and wife. So if it's maybe a partner who is opposing that kind of marriage, they will just come and say, this one used to visit me. They can even produce WhatsApp messages. I'm coming to visit over the weekend. That's evidence that you've not been staying together as husband and wife. Wow. So there is no societal presumption that you are a married couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
That also, what you've just said, is also in regards to also validity of marriage.
Yeah, so that's why we're coming. Validity of marriage is just that registration to make your marriage valid. Yes, you went through a traditional ceremony, there was dowry exchange, but you didn't register it. So the validity of the marriage is, I do have a registration certificate to indicate that I'm married, even though it is customary. Yeah, and also just to mention, maybe customary laws. Most of the time, customary marriages, as much as they are registered, they are polygamous in nature. So you see, in Kenya, things like bigamy. Bigamy is a criminal offense. Bigamy is a criminal offense when you actually marry someone when you have been married. Like
So
before you
that's
divorce
having-
someone.
So-
It's going through another marriage ceremony when you're already married. That one is bigamy. But that does not apply, of course, to customary marriages.
Okay.
And I think also Islamic law, they have an allowance of 4. Yes. So they do not apply to all kinds of marriages. Those ones are strict to civil marriages and Christian marriages, where if your partner goes ahead to marry someone else when you're married, then you can actually sue them. It's a crime. It's a criminal offense. But of course, we don't see so many of those cases.
Oh yeah.
But just people should know they have that option.
To actually sue.
You can
But,
sue your husband. However, if it was a customary marriage, then
And what's the process? Like, what's the process of, we got married, we had our traditional wedding. So what's the process of like making it valid?
so you usually apply. In fact, nowadays those things you can initiate them from how is it called? A citizen. There is a place for registration and all that, registration of
Government
marriages.
services.
Yes.
E-citizen.
Yes, in a citizen.
Oh,
So nowadays, even if people want to get married the civil way at the AG, that process is usually commenced through the Register of Marriages, and those services, fortunately, nowadays can be accessed through a citizen, or actually just going to the office of the Register of Marriages. It's also an option. So you just say, as we got married, we would like to register it. Then they should be able to take you through the process. So it's just a matter of applying for registration.
So Sylvia, in regards to going to a citizen and these government services, does it mean that I do not need legal advisory and I can just go and register my marriage?
Of course, you may need legal advisory. You see, like, for instance, how you've asked, it indicates not so many people are aware of the process. It's a process that you can attempt to do it on your own. However, it's important if you have a legal advice or an advocate present to just take you through the process for them to ensure that at the end of the day, you do come out with the correct certificate. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I actually have a friend of mine who decided to register for themselves, and they thought they had registered a civil union, and when the certificate was out, they found that it had been registered as a traditional marriage when they had actually gone through a different process. So it's important you have someone to guide you. It's a process that, yes, you can handle on yourself, but it's good to have a third eye most of the time.
Because I remember something that was going on social media. Guys complaining that they realized they'd done garden weddings. Then they realized they're actually not legally married.
Because I think when you're doing the garden weddings, which I'm going to term them as Christian wedding, because maybe they're officiated by a priest or a pastor or whatever. You're still supposed to get that. They're still supposed to give you the certificate. Yes. But now if you don't get it there, then that means it's not. And you see now, for them to get, he has to have been. That's why they always say, by the power vested upon me by the state and by the God. Yes. So that state part is where he now gives you that the certificate. So you need to get that has been given to him, and he needs to have been registered and given the authority to do that. Not all preachers, or not all priests and pastors have that.
To officiate.
Yeah. So that's now what makes, because you could go through the whole thing, but then now, since you don't have that, then that means you actually don't
And-
have, because
Can you
churches,
imagine?
churches also give their own.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's what I was about
just-
to mention actually. Like what she has mentioned. You see, when a church or when your pastor officiates your union, the church will give you a certificate of wedding. It's not a marriage
Oh.
certificate. You understand?
Wow.
So that certificate you sign in church is not the certificate from the government. That's why you'll find someone there like, but I had a wedding, I have pictures.
Yeah.
But then you're not married. So
That's
it
tragic.
is important that most times churches will procure these certificates for you through the Register of Marriages, especially the ones who have been given the authority to officiate marriages. But sometimes there are those who now decide, let's get married at the AG, which is a civil union, and then you involve the church for the celebration. So what people are coming in thinking is a wedding is just a ceremony, but you're already married as through the AG.
That's tragic. And I think it's important for our audience listening to us, please go and just confirm you're actually married to that man or woman.
And confirm whoever is officiating your
Okay.
marriage is actually
Come to MNO for that. Huh?
Yeah.
So now let's get into I meet this guy, we get married legally. It's a valid marriage. But then things go south. It doesn't work out and I want a divorce. And I think it's very important for us to get into that conversation because just from observing, there was an article that was written by one of the dailies about divorce and the high rate of divorce, and it trended. I don't know whether you got a chance to see that. Yeah, and so I'm wondering, maybe could you walk us through divorce, and we could start by why do you think that has the numbers have gone high? Has the process changed? Has it become easier?
The process for divorce has not become easier. I mean, we're not like other countries where someone is just serving you divorce papers and signing. I guess if we get to that place, but it's there in other countries. Like we even dealing with a client who is from a different country in Denmark, and for him, it was just given. For them, in fact, actually, you would just log online to the government services, download the divorce petition, sign, check to the other person to sign. If they sign, that's it. You're divorced. And that process, they usually given a period of like 10 days to happen. However, in Kenya, we've not gotten there. If it was that easy, I'm sure the divorce rates would be higher.
Even higher.
Yeah. But for now, I think for us, like we mentioned, there's societal stigma has gone down. Divorce is no longer something to shy away from. Most people are actually opening themselves after that process. But then also we have a lot of divorce lawyers to take people through these processes. So I think also Kenyans are starting to seek legal advice in things. So I guess that's why we come in, and maybe why the numbers have gone high, in my own view. But I do confirm the numbers have gone high as practitioners. We receive a lot of those petitions, those instructions.
I think also it's social media.
Okay.
I think there is a lot of awareness that has been created on social media. And since the world has now become like a global village, people now know that, if it's not working out, I don't have to stay. Yes, and where do I go? Yeah, this is where I can go. And these services are this way. Because the myth was that, legal services are very expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, so in instances where, especially for the women, they would either I would go to FIDA to try and find now representation, which means it would be pro bono, things because I can't afford the legal fees. So instead of me going, I would sit at home because I'm like, let me just stay here because I can't manage. But then there are so many other avenues that are now, and now we have advocates now that you can come to. You'll get your consultation, then you can.
Yeah, which is important to mention at MNO. You don't have to be. That does not need to be the thing that's stopping you because we have financial plans.
Yes.
So just you come and we can just sit down and figure out a financial plan.
Yeah, there's that too in the farm. You see, once we give you our quotation, we give you room to negotiate. We give you room to get a payment plan. So legal services are not far-fetched or extremely expensive. As society wants to perceive. There are services that are accessible, and of course there's the part where you are allowed flexibility when it comes to payment. So that is also part of the reason the divorce rates have gone flexibility in payments.
Walk us through now the process. Like it's had it then worked out with my Mr. Right. He's become Mr. Wrong. So walk us through the process.
So but I needed to know divorce is not your number one solution actually. Once you hit a dead end with someone. So as much as it's a process that happens, there's usually a process that people don't talk about so much. But it's called judicial separation. So I don't know if Samantha, you want to take us through what judicial separation entails.
Judicial separation just means I will notify the state or the government through the courts that I'm no longer staying with this person as his spouse or as his wife or now as their spouse. I'm no longer staying with this person as their spouse. We have decided to take a break for this period of time as we try to see if we can sort this marriage out. Meaning that now you don't have to rush through and go to the bit of where now divorce, because divorce is more or less a finality. So you have the judicial separation is usually for 12 months, a period of 12 months. Yes, okay. Where you are your legal obligations as a married person are no longer there. Which means for this period of time, whatever happens, it can never be used against me for any other reason. You're living your own life, I'm living my own life as we try and figure this out. So now when it comes to debt, when it comes to whatever happens during that period of 1 year, that one is at a yes. Until we figure things out and decide now, can we come back together?
So on that also, it's important to note that when you're applying for judicial separation, the grounds for judicial separation are the same grounds.
What do you mean?
For divorce. You see, so maybe I'll take you through the grounds for divorce. You see, or judicial separation in this instance. There are several grounds that may want you to end the marriage. So it could be infidelity, it could be cruelty, it could be desertion of the marriage, it could be... we were reading somewhere, even wickedness. We were asking, what is wickedness?
What's that?
What is actually a ground? To prove this person was wicked to you.
Wicked, like wicked. You need to wake up and help me make breakfast. That's wickedness.
So there are several grounds for divorce, and those are some of them. So those are the same grounds you use when you're going to court for judicial separation. You're telling court, I want to be separated from this person for a period of 12 months. And in this period, you're trying to figure out if you can reconcile, if there is room to work things out. So this period, if you stay separately, if you actually even date someone else in the process, it will not be considered adultery. You understand? It will not be considered deserting your matrimonial home because
which is a ground for divorce.
But in this period, you're telling court, yes, there are these grounds for divorce, but we want to see if we can work them out. So that is where the judicial separation comes in. So once the 12 months lapse, you're usually given a certificate of judicial separation, valid for a year. Once that period lapses, then you can either move back court and say we've decided we're working this thing out, or you actually now apply for divorce.
I have a question. When it comes to the grounds of divorce, what you've mentioned, like adultery, desertion of your marriage, are they like specific ones that are given by
the Marriage Act?
The Marriage Act.
Yes, those are grounds listed in the Marriage Act.
It's not just how I'm feeling like the expectations I had were not met.
That is a ground.
That's wickedness.
Yes. But it's justify. Also, one of the reasons is irreconcilable differences. You see, you could just mention we've been fighting a lot and we don't seem to resolve issues. That is a good
and do
ground.
I need to prove?
Yeah, mostly you need to explain why you feel your issues are irreconcilable. Maybe you can say even communication breakdown. We are not even at a place to sit down and talk. But there is expectation to prove, of course. If you're coming to say your partner was cheating, you have to prove they were cheating. Because those are questions that...
And a feeling, women, we have gut feelings. So that's not a ground, a way to prove.
How can we read your gut feelings? You know,
honestly, we are right.
I
promise you,
evidence.
It almost always ends up being.
I mean, it is, but in law, you can't really prove in court your gut feeling.
Hi, you guys said that for the judicial separation, there's a time span of 12 months. Me 12 months zimepita, hiyo 1 year. I still do not want to be with this person. Like I want to a divorce. So what next?
Just before even Sylvia goes there, we said you can do whatever you want during this talk, but you can't get married.
Oh really?
You can't. You can't get
but
married.
I can move in with someone.
You can't. No, you can't. You
I can't move in with someone.
No, you can't.
But you said it's not.
No, you are dating, yes, but you see now you're still with this within this year. Yes, you're only it's only the legal obligations.
Okay.
Yes, but you're still married. You're still married, so you cannot.
Can I go have a child? Okay, that's
no.
Oh, really? That's within.
That will be sufficient grounds for divorce.
Yes.
Why are you coming
Why do you want to have a child, and why do you want
to have not married? So there are also restrictions.
No. We were married separation. Officially. We've just separated.
Yes.
You understand?
So that means
you separating. It's basically meaning I will not call it. You're not deserting the marriage, but let's give each other.
When
space.
you say deserting the marriage, I feel like that and wickedness is a lot of.
Deserting the marriage is just walking outside. Ama if you work outside, if maybe you're in a long distance marriage, you just never come home. You've just deserted the marriage. There is no effort to make the other party feel like you're still a married
like
couple.
They're loved.
Yes. Don't be wicked and desert someone.
Calls, just remember it's Valentine's, just things like those.
Send flowers,
just to show someone I'm still married. But otherwise you just disappear. That is deserting the marriage. And if you're living together, you go and stay another place. You don't stay there. That's deserting the matrimonial home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there are so many, also with this judicial separation, there are so many things that would require you to also seek legal advisory, because for me, I'm thinking, okay, so legally I can do this. And what I'm doing, there are no consequences towards affecting like my marriage. So now when I ask, can I go and have a child? Like if a child happens, or can I move in with this person? So much.
Basically, when you are legally separated also, there is the presumption that you're trying to salvage this marriage. So going into some extremes, like I was saying, they will just form sufficient grounds for divorce. Like after the separation, then you come back pregnant to say you still want to work on the marriage. You see, you've already compromised the good faith of the separation. The separation was supposed to give you time to think and maybe reconcile. Yeah.
Makosa kidogo ilifanyika.
I also see that in some of these instances, sometimes we just get angry. And then we think like, okay, the next thing is this. Coming to an advocate, coming to see your lawyer means, first of all, you can get, I would not call it counseling, well, maybe like mediation.
Legal advisory.
Yeah, no, it's
it is
like
counseling
mediation.
actually. That's why we are called counsel.
Yes,
we counsel a lot.
Yeah, so
especially those family matters.
Those services are also provided. So that doesn't mean that necessarily when you come to see your lawyer, I will be going through the divorce.
I have to be decided.
It might just mean you probably need somebody else to come in and try and help both of you look at things from different perspectives. So when you come to the advocate, I think the first instance when you come to see your lawyer might probably be that bit of mediation, where I will sit both of you down and we'll try and see if can this thing work out. Then if it doesn't work out, then now we advise from there. Can you go through, is it legal separation, or now you go through the divorce? Yes.
Yeah, that's important.
And she mentioned that she's a mediator, so
certified mediator.
We mediate. But one thing I've noticed though, sometimes clients come alone. Then maybe you can encourage them. You're like, do you think this is someone you can talk to? Do you think this is a process you want to go through? And also sometimes once you take a client through the whole process of divorce, they realize they don't want to be part of it. So they decide it's easier to fix their marriage at that point. Or maybe kids are involved and they just want maybe more support. So it's not necessarily going through divorce. But that's where we come in as a firm, because we usually give clients advisory on the process, on what it entails, on their options. Like if your issue is children, don't mix it with divorce. You may not necessarily, maybe you just have a communication breakdown. So in those instances, if your significant other is amenable to conversations, we have held so many of such conversations in our boardrooms. So it is just to give the client clarity. And if now you decide to instruct us to go ahead, then hit the road running with the process of
sometimes
divorce.
the other fear is court. Most people actually fear court because you don't really know, like,
what happens there.
What is, the moment you hear court and then it becomes like a whole thing.
It's just even the perception that I've realized, on a personal note, and of course our audience, most of us have a perception of lawyers and advocates, which is why I'm also surprised that really what you've said, there's also the counsel. There's that human aspect of not everything needs to end up in court, and we can sit and have a relationship. MNO keeps emphasizing on the difference is a great relationship. We actually can go through this process together. We can try and figure out this particular problem. How do we,
to the best of whatever makes you comfortable as a client. Not necessarily, we will not bank on. You need to go to court.
And we're very fortunate. MNO, we have, I think 3 mediators already. And also, the part of dispute resolution as a firm, it's not litigation. We're not fighting. We are trying to find amicable ways. Like you've seen, Samantha, he's an arbitrator. So if you give us an opportunity to take you through that process, that is also something that we can take you through. We don't need to go to court.
And it also ensures your privacy. Because, some people don't want to go the court way because they feel like, okay, this is what all my issues will be aired out there. But now you see, when you have your advocate is both a litigation advocate and also a mediator, it can mean that now this will just stay within. When they come to you, it will just stay within the firm and we will probably sort it out there. So you're spoiled for choice.
And it doesn't have to get ugly, because I'm thinking...
No, it doesn't have to get ugly. But also, just to clarify, as much as we're talking about ADR is through the consultative process before we go to court.
ADR, you mean?
Alternative dispute resolution.
Okay.
Like mediation and arbitration, like what we're doing, it's ADR.
Friends of the
so
firm, amicus. ADR.
So, just to clarify though, now that we're talking about divorce, we will counsel you prior to. But the moment we start the divorce process, divorce is one of those instances where you cannot settle through mediation. You understand? Like, even if me and you agree we want to divorce, me as a lawyer, I cannot give you the decree for divorcing. So once you start the divorce process, you can see it to completion, or you can back out along the way. Because divorce is a family thing. You can decide to forgive your partner in the process, you reconcile. So there's a client who abandoned the process when we were preparing to go for the hearing, and they told us they had reconciled.
So it doesn't have to be ugly.
No, it doesn't have to be ugly. And maybe we can take you through the divorce process as we discuss what really happens. So it doesn't have to be ugly. Like we've mentioned some of the grounds for divorce, and those are actually ugly grounds, like infidelity if you really have evidence, or cruelty where you've been beaten, or all those things are ugly grounds for divorce. However, when you're moving court, it doesn't necessarily need to be ugly. You see, sometimes when people think, now I'm going to air my dirty laundry in public for me to be granted my divorce, it's a bit uncomfortable. So sometimes people are shy from going through the process. However, even if those are the grounds for divorce and you're mentioning them just to prove to the court that you actually need the marriage to be dissolved, you do not have to actively engage in those details. So what happens is, as a firm, we usually encourage clients, yes, you can mention them, but at the end of the day, it comes down to an irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Like all those grounds led this marriage to the point where we can't retrieve it. So, and that is sufficient grounds to grant you divorce in the Kenyan court. So once you come to us and we advise you, you list your grounds, we will try and summarize your petition to just reflect the issues without a lot of drama, because most clients don't want drama. But however, for those who are a bit more private, you do not have to air everything. You can mention just to show court, I have met the grounds for divorce, so kindly. So once we draft the divorce petition, we usually now proceed to court. We represent you in the process. And also, again, if you want a seamless process that without a lot of drama, nowadays you can actually just adopt your divorce petition as it is.
What does that mean?
That means is whatever you've outlined in your divorce petition as the grounds for divorce, you can just go to court on the day of the hearing and tell court, I would like to adopt the petition as it is. I confirm I'm married and I want my marriage to be dissolved. The reason why I'm saying you adopt, normally when you go to court, you're supposed to give evidence of everything that you've mentioned. You understand? So you give evidence like this happened on this date, this transpired. So you have to give an account of everything and explain why you need a divorce. But you can adopt those things on paper and ask court to grant the divorce as it is, so that you're not subjected to a situation where you have to relieve the bad instances in your marriage. Yeah.
So to pick it up from there, once you're able to adopt that, and then the court now takes it, they give you what is called a decree nisi or nisi, depending on where you went to nursery school. Depending on where you went to nursery school,
primary.
Yeah, that means it is just a temporary, like it's a temporary. What can I call it?
It is a temporary order dissolving the marriage. You see, like once you've gone through the whole process of divorce in court, which we have to mention, like we had mentioned, in Kenya we don't have papers, we go to court. Once you're done with all the court process, the court will give its judgment, and if the court is satisfied that you've met the grounds, it will say this marriage is dissolved. When it's giving that judgment, that is not the proof of dissolution of that marriage. Now what Samantha was saying, they give you now a decree nisi, which is a temporary document. A temporary...
Oh, a document. Oh, okay.
Yes,
so
it's a court order.
It
is a court order temporarily
Yeah.
Saying we've dissolved this marriage, but you're giving parties 30 days.
To still think about it.
Yes. You see, divorce is not chap.
But then how long does it take?
Roughly, it's supposed to take about 3-4 months.
3-4 months?
Yes.
I don't know where I had this, but I've always thought like divorce should be like, or takes 2, 4, 5, a crazy number of years.
It used to, but then we've just given you a shortcut of adopting your divorce petition.
Why I need to be
you see what
like
happens.
to get MNO's legal advisory.
Yeah. So what happens is, so once you go to court and you file the papers, there is usually something issued in between we forgot to mention that is called a registrar's certificate. You see, once I file a divorce petition, the other party is supposed to respond. You understand?
Okay.
So once I file this court document, I serve them, but I'm not serving them to sign. I'm serving them to respond. When they're responding, they're either saying, yes, I equally want a divorce on their own grounds. Then maybe they felt you were wicked, you were cruel, and you are saying they cheated. So they're given room to respond. However, some opt not to respond. So when you don't
not to respond, sorry for interrupting,
Yeah.
means
there's some people who just don't want to be part of the process. It is not
does it mean
advisable.
like I refuse to?
Yes, I refuse to be part of the process.
To say something, you know,
Yes.
like just respond to it and be like, okay, he wants the divorce, fine. I will not say
I thought
anything.
it's I don't want to get divorced.
No. You're
Those are
not
two
saying
different things.
anything because now when you don't
When you
say
refuse to
anything,
respond, that is now it's assumption that
you are agreeable.
you're agreeable to the divorce.
Oh.
However, there's something I was actually talking with Samantha earlier. The reason why you respond to a divorce petition or there is the back and forth in court in a divorce petition, the end goal in a divorce petition is not to win. You see, you're not fighting to win. There is no win in divorce. You understand? But you're fighting for the divorce to be granted in your terms. In your terms, it means if this person files a divorce petition and says they're divorcing me because I was adulterous and I don't fight it, then the divorce will be granted because I was adulterous. You understand? And court documents are public documents. If anyone ever comes across that document, they'll be like, she's adulterous. You understand? However, you responding, you're like, no, I was not adulterous. In fact, me, I even have videos where he was the one who was cheating. You understand? Or in fact, he deserted the marriage for years. So you just want the divorce to be granted. It's literally just clearing your name as you walk out.
Is there something like, in quotes, I use air quotes because I'm wondering, is there something like a good divorce? It's just that we realize we actually were not meant to do this thing. I feel quite serious, Evie.
Yeah.
Like, can you just...
No, you still have to go through the process.
Yeah.
And you see, the question you asked earlier about it taking time, like maybe 3 to 5 years, that's what it used to be. And you see, even if you look at the statute right now, it usually, it says that you cannot get a divorce before 3 years? Yes.
Yep.
Yes. But then there was a judgment that was given where basically the court said, I think that was around, was it 2015 or
It was recent.
Or
I think
20.
it was even 2020.
So where it
2019.
said
Yeah.
like you cannot be forced to stay with somebody if you don't want to stay with them. So that is now what has allowed for it to take like 3 months.
Oh,
But Kitambo, you had to, regardless of how you feel, you had to stay for
For at least 3 years. Before you couldn't file a divorce petition prior to 3 years. You had to stay, that's what she's trying to say. You had to stay married for 3 years before you could move court for a divorce petition. Nowadays it's not. Yes.
So even if he's cruel or
You stay and stick
wicked.
out your 3 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you need to come to your lawyer, because if you don't come to talk to your lawyer,
You may
wouldn't
still
know.
think it's
Yeah.
the
You
same
will
thing.
think it's 3 years or it's
Yeah.
5 years, and maybe it's something like if it's not working
Nowadays
out,
it was changed. It was amended.
Even
Nowadays
And
6
can I ask
months,
something?
even if 6 months, and you realize someone is
it's not working.
It's not working. You can come and find a way to.
Okay, now say he wants to divorce me and I don't want. Can I like refuse to get divorced?
You can refuse to get divorced, by the way. Hey, you struggle to get him. Where is he going? You can refuse.
We are here.
Sleep over it.
We will
Just
not
tomorrow.
out.
You can refuse to get divorced, actually. People do. There are people who come and they're like, no, me, I don't. I'm not cruel. In fact, I'm very loving. I still want to continue loving this
Hii
person.
ni makosa kidogo.
Yeah, we will talk. I'm still open to reconciling. So you're given room to state. It's not that automatic. You accept. So now in those circumstances, when you refuse to get divorced, of course, now that's why I say there is room to respond. You either respond agreeing to divorce on your terms, or you refuse and say you still think your wife is just mad. She'll get over it. So in those instances now, you leave it to the court to make a determination on whether this person who filed the petition has met the grounds for divorce. And if they haven't, then the court will just tell you to go and talk.
But
It's not automatic.
that is now where the decree also comes in, because they give you that, and they give you a period of about 30 days for you to figure things out. I was telling Sylvia, I've had a situation where we went all the way up to the granting of the decree. Then as we were still waiting for it to be confirmed, they went to Zanzibar.
Well,
They went to
change of
Zanzibar.
location. Let's try and see Bibles.
I know.
Then when they came back, then they were like, Wakili, we are
really?
we are not doing
Wow.
this. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you see, now at that point when that now happens, you now go, your advocate now can go back to court and be a court my clients have decided to stay together.
Yeah.
So this 30 days you gave us is working.
Yeah. So you see that
It was very successful.
And in that instance, now you go, in that moment when you go back to court and tell court our clients have reconciled, then the whole process had yet a judgment may dissolve marriage will not dissolve that marriage.
Okay.
The court can actually revise its decision. However, after the 30 days lapse, now there is something called decree absolute. So if you ever meet someone and they tell you they are divorced, just ask them for the decree absolute. Wasikwambia judgment. Watarudiana watenda Zanzibar. You know.
And you're probably
You had it here, guys.
Where is the
Ask for
decree
the decree
absolute? That is
absolute.
the proof. That is the
yes,
proof of divorce.
akuonyeshe.
Yeah. And then now once you've gone through the whole process, mako kamaliza na decree absolute, then at that point if you decide to reconcile, you'll get married afresh. There is no going back to overturn the court's decision. That has actually happened. I think even Makanda was telling me a story of someone he handled the divorce.
Senior.
Yeah,
partner at
yeah,
MNO.
yeah. So he handled the divorce to the end. These parties went and married other people. They divorced those people and came back and got married again. You understand? So maybe along the way you realize they were the one.
So
You can get married
Fika.
again. Nothing stops you from going through
Going
that.
back to your person.
Yeah.
After.
Wow.
The streets are hard, man. Just go back. Yeah.
So I have a question, ladies. Now, I get married, and then I realize maybe this person had a family I had no idea about, or he's not who he says he is.
What do you mean? He's not who he says he is.
And what do you also mean by a family? Is it like his mother and
He told you he was an orphan.
Yeah.
You got married to an only child. You realize they are 10.
No, like he has a wife. Like you have a wife.
Like he's been married before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been married before.
Like he's
You
married.
actually,
He's married.
from this,
Yeah.
from this episode, we realized we say we are married, or you say you are married, but is it really a valid marriage? So I mean, he has a whole family.
So it's he has a valid marriage, an existing valid marriage.
Yeah, technicalities.
It's important.
Okay, he has a valid marriage, and he's when I mean he's not who he says he is. Say he's not. He likes women per se, and that's not what I mean too. So that's what I mean. That's just an example of he's not who he says he is.
Like they misrepresented themselves.
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, if you've been married and it's within the first year of marriage, then you can move court for annulment of the marriage. So you need to understand annulment and divorce are different processes. They are both processes to dissolve the marriage, but one will have a court record. Yes, you were married and the marriage ended. Annulment, on the other hand, it just nullifies the whole marriage. It didn't exist.
Okay.
So when you go around, you're not saying I'm divorced. You are single. You've never been married. That is what annulment is about. So it will nullify the marriage because you got into the marriage without information that if you had, you probably would not have gotten into that marriage. So there are several grounds for annulment. So one of the grounds for annulment is, like you said, misrepresentation of very important facts that if you had analyzed, you would not have gotten into the marriage. Number two, if you did not consent to that marriage, you were coerced. You understand? You were coerced. Maybe your parents forced you to it. It was not a consensual decision for you to get into the marriage. That is also a ground for annulment.
Which will require proof as well.
Yeah, you just say, my mom was given money for me to get married and she forced me.
Do I need to prove money is exchanged?
You can, because you're trying to tell court, I did not have the mental capacity to get into this marriage.
Gotcha.
I was coerced.
And do I have to be like underage, or I
Yes.
could just
No.
like I could, for
Underage
example,
is also a ground for annulment.
okay.
If I marry you and I realize you're just above 16-year-old, you're not 22 or 24, yes, you are an underage. So that marriage is a nullity because an underage does not have the capacity to consent to get into a marriage. So that is also a ground. We also have if you got married and you didn't cement the marriage through conjugal rights. So if you've been married and you've never, that is also a ground for annulment.
Really?
Yeah, because you just
that?
wait for marriage.
How do you
don't wait
prove what you go
just
and
go
tell
and say,
court
court,
this
it
man
has never
or
happened.
this woman has not consummated our marriage? Because you see, that is also a requirement for a marriage to be valid. You need to consummate it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Or one thing we didn't mention when we're talking about divorce is that even if you are denied conjugal rights, it is a very solid ground for divorce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you see, there's a part where conjugal rights is such an important aspect of marriage. So if you get into the marriage and you're there 6-7 months, nothing has happened, that is a ground for annulling the marriage. And also if you, even you as a lady, if you got into that marriage, in fact the Marriage Act is like, if you got into the marriage and you were pregnant and the pregnancy was not for that man,
and he had no knowledge of it.
he had no knowledge, maybe he thought it was his,
Okay.
and then along the way he realizes this is not my baby, that is ground for annulling, because if he had known, he would not have entered into that marriage. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any other ground I've missed.
Not really. What I would just say probably is annulment focuses on the legal aspect of the marriage. Yeah, those are the grounds for annulment. Like when you say you need to be above the age of 18, you need to be of sound mind, you need consent, you need, that is what makes a valid marriage. So for it to ensure that annulment means there was no marriage at all. So if these characteristics are not met, then that is now a ground for annulment.
Yeah. I think that's a very good analogy. Yes. So annulment, you can only move court for annulment within 1 year of marriage.
1 year of marriage?
1 year. If you, after 1 year, then it becomes divorce.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Mary got married to James, and then they have been together for 1.5 years. Well, they are waiting, spending more time together, waiting for children. Then after 18 months, Mary tells James, you know what? I like it when it's just the two of us. I don't want this kids thing. I don't want it. Yeah, it's not. So if we can just stay the two of us, that's good for me, because I don't really think I want to have kids anymore. And of course, James wants to have kids. Yes. Now he's like, okay, now you have gotten into this. Now you've changed your mind. You don't want to have kids. What option is available to James? Does he go for annulment or does he go for divorce?
I think he goes for divorce. He goes for divorce because we have started by saying annulment, you misrepresented facts. Mary didn't start by saying, I don't want kids, and then convinced him along the way she wants kids and then changed her mind. She wanted kids. They were both at a place where they wanted kids. And then upon realizing, okay, maybe this kids thing is not happening, I no longer want kids anymore. Changing your mind is grounds for divorce, because then it means you've gotten to a place where you have a dispute that you cannot agree on. You understand? This is where there is a difference that you cannot reconcile. That is a ground for divorce. It is not misrepresentation. I didn't lie to you that I don't want kids, and then along the way I changed my mind. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and also the point Samantha was trying to make, basically the issue of annulment involves the grounds for a marriage. You see, when we started defining marriage, two consenting adults of legal mind, the age, sound, they are sane. So if some of those grounds you realize this person is not of legal age, that is a ground for annulment. This person did not consent to get married, that is a ground for annulment.
Sound mind.
Yeah.
There were not of sound mind.
They're not of sound mind. That's it.
Or you come to the marriage and you realize that she said she's a woman and she's not.
That is
a
misrepresentation. It's supposed to be between opposite sex. So if you get married and they tell you, now me, I just got married for societal needs. I am actually into men.
Oh, so now that's his preference is.
Yes.
Yes.
So if say I didn't have that information, so that's misrepresentation.
Yes.
You made me believe you are into women, and
Yeah.
then along the way you got married only to lie to society, but for your own personal needs you're into. Because it has happened. There are men who get into this union, and then along the way they're like, I am of this other community.
Okay.
So what happens to you? If it is within the first year, well and good, that is sufficient ground for annulment. However, if you realize 10 kids down the line,
It's divorce, huh?
it's divorce.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies, for joining me in this episode. I've learned so much, and I'm sure our audience as well has learned quite a number, and we've realized some of the things that we've been oblivious about, or we really do not know, even the basics of what's a valid marriage according to Kenyan law. So thank you for that, and thank you to our audience. Please comment, like, share all the questions you have. Put them under in the comment section. We're going to find another section where we are going to, respond to these questions. So thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank
Final
you.
words.
Thank you for having us. It was an amazing session and a good conversation. And we're ready at MNO to take you guys through all the processes, whether it's consultations, whether it's the divorce process, whether it's marriages, annulments, all those things. We're ready at MNO as your advocates to take you through.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I will just reiterate what Sylvia has said. There are so many legal options that are available to you. And the best way to know those legal options is actually to walk into your lawyer's office. Yeah, so you are welcome to walk so that you can either do alternative dispute resolution, or you can go the way of court, or you can just settle it out. Yeah, without necessarily having to go through the whole process. Yeah.
Awesome. So you had it here. Keep it just legal. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.